Hi everyone, it's Lori McIntosh with eXp Realty, and tonight I am at Dueling Dogs Brewery over here in Lincoln, and we are sitting here, I am, with Billy Cunningham with Ask Lenderbilly.
Hey everybody.
And we want to talk about rural properties today because we're in a lot of rural land right now, and I thought this is a good topic, especially for those of you that live in the city and you're tired of the noise, the traffic, and people all around you, and just need a little space, right?
I think that's a big part of why our families moved here, right, Lori?
Yes, that's why.
Yeah.
Well, I also have horses, and they like a lot of space, and big dogs.
And I got goats. I got smaller dogs, but we are not just pulling this out of thin air because we are two families that moved from the Bay Area and had to do a lot of learning along the way. So we're going to give you some insightful information, and for simplicity, we're going to break this into three categories. We're going to talk about people that might want to buy a fairly large lot, maybe up to an acre, could be in a rural area, might not be. We're going to talk about people that want to buy over an acre, up to about 10 acres. Then we're going to talk about folks that really want a big slice of Americana. I want to go over 10 acres, and you can buy properties. I've financed properties up to almost 200 acres. So, Lori, let's start with that first one, which is people that want just a little more breathing room. I know for you, I don't know about for you and Nigel, but when I was in the Bay Area, my family, we had a quarter acre, and that was big.
What? We moved here because we have horses, wanted some land, and love privacy and just quietness. And I really like the fact that I could walk outside, feed my horses in my boxers.
Amen to that. Amen to that. Can't say I'm not guilty of that. Yeah.
So, and the reason why I have you here with me today, Billy, is a lot of people think that you can just get a conventional loan and buy a lot of land and do your thing. But there's some options, actually. You can do that. There's USDA, there's VA, and then, of course, like I said, conventional loans. But
Right.
there's some stepping stones to get that, right?
There are. And then I think this is where it's one of the pitfalls where people leap before they look with buying rural properties. If you're just looking, for instance, you want more breathing room. We're going to call this the first category. Maybe it's a property that's an acre and a half, but it's essentially still a subdivision, meaning it's a pre-planned community. You may be subject to HOAs, you may not, but you don't have rural features. And what I'm talking about would be things like a well. What are some of the other things, Lori?
Septic, irrigation, but you're golden when it comes to electricity. That's
Right.
there.
Right, because they're bringing electricity and they're bringing water to the street. So it really behaves just like a home that you may already own in San Francisco or one of the suburbs in the Bay Area. So it's really like and like, and for that, we're going to be able to do just about every type of loan program that you're accustomed to. Next, we move on to true rural, and that's going to be anything over about an acre, up to say 10, and that's going to be the properties where things are quite a bit different. And so, Laura, you touched on it, but let's kind of get down and dirty into that.
Yeah, so when you get into bigger land, majority of Placer County beyond 2 acres has a well. And I would highly recommend, if you're a buyer, to get a well inspection. And that involves how many feet is your well, is what you're going to pay for. And you definitely want to check for the quality of the water. Is there sulfur? Is there E. coli? What kind of bacteria is in there? So you have to pay for that. And I definitely will help you with those costs and let you know. And then second is you'll have a septic system with leach fields, and that takes a little bit of land. And if you do want to have, you could put an orchard on it easily, but you don't want to put livestock on your leach field because once they pound on there, it could get a little, the ground needs to bubble up a little bit with the septic system, right. So they need space. You don't want to park all your fancy cars out there or your mini RVs, fifth wheels, tiny homes, whatever you have. You don't want to park them on your leach fields. And then irrigation. If you're into having an orchard, a winery, you want to have your own garden, live off the grid, you must have irrigation, and that would be with PCWA, which is Placer County Water Agency, or NID if you live further north like I do, which is North Auburn, Meadow Vista. And NID stands for Nevada Irrigation District, and these are canals that flow through all of Placer County and Nevada County from the Sierras, and that's why it's ideal, really,
Right.
I think, to live up here because we have access to water, which is a primo bonus.
It's phenomenal. So if you're starting to look up here, this is why it's so important to work with an agent like Lori that knows these features, because, you know, I'll use an old saying that goes back, I don't know, thousands of years, which is water is gold. If you're looking at a rural property, riparian rights, water rights are so critical for a whole host of reasons. For one, let's say you're considering an almond orchard that's going to require a ton of water. If you need that water, you need something like a canal that is feeding water. I'll give you an example. We're both on properties where I have access to that Nevada Irrigation District. I pay $1,000 a year for unlimited water. That's right. I'm on 5.5 acres. It flows through. I don't have an orchard, but I can use that water as needed. If I didn't have that, and if I did want to have an almond orchard as a business, I'd be in serious trouble, because otherwise I'm going to have to pay for that water. And where am I going to get it? I can't just get it from my well. It's just going to suck my well dry. So,
well, you could have a 25 GPM well and then have a backup, which, I hate to say this, but just in case there was a wildfire and the firemen saw your big ass 500-gallon water tank, they're going to be like, yeah, I'm going for that house. So that's a bonus. That's something that
save
you
the neighborhood,
about
right?
Down the road, but yes.
So good segue, Lori. Let's talk about wells. So when you look at a property, a rural agent, once again, just critical details, gang. This is going to be Greek until you learn it and an agent guides you. With wells, the flow of water, or the amount of water you receive per minute, it's known as a miner's inch, and that is close to about 11.25 gallons per minute, or about 15,000 gallons per day. So I think, Lori, you and your husband Nigel, on your property, you get how much of a miner's? You get half?
We have half a miner's inch in the winter and a full miner's inch in the summer. And for the two of us and our 5 equines, and we have 30 fruit and nut trees, that's plenty of water for us.
Yeah.
But plus we have a pond
Yeah.
that the water runs through.
And we have a similar sized property. We're a little under 6 acres, and we're actually more water than we could use. But there will be properties, sometimes I've seen up to 12 miner's inches, which is just an insane
I've not
amount.
seen that.
That'd be
I've
like
seen
180,000 gallons of water. But
That's crazy.
these are things that are so important to know, because that water, that has value. So you might see a property and go, gosh, you know what, we feel like it's 25 or 50,000 more than you want to pay, but these are things you have to understand to factor into your valuation, because you're not just valuing a single family home in a subdivision, right? Yeah.
No, you're not.
So I know another thing that your husband reminded us of, and it's been a while. I try to block it out because of what I had to spend, is access to effective and reliable internet.
Yeah, so, well, Starlink is your ultimate savior if necessary. Unless you live in Alta or Blue Canyon in the middle of the Tahoe National Forest, then you might have a little trouble. You just have to put it in a very tall tree. But otherwise, if you live in Placer County, you're golden. And if you like Nevada County, such as Grass Valley, they have fiber optic coming through, and you're golden there too. And of course, there's cable. I think now, today, 2025, you will not have any issues if you work from home. You're from the Bay Area, for example, San Luis Obispo, Las Vegas, wherever. You come up here and you think, oh my God, there's no way I'll have internet. You will. We'll figure it out for you. I've got so many connections to hook you up. You'll be fine.
It's a lot better than it was 5-6 years ago when I had to pay to dig.
We did too.
Could have bought a car, but got internet instead.
We had smarter broadband, and it was we had these long wired cords through all along our driveway. We had to bury it under the rocky driveway and stick a hole in the house. It was, and this was just 8 years ago.
Right. So huge improvements on that front. Anything else on the mid-size, getting into the real rural category before we move on?
Real rural is a lot of people think that they can get a loan and have power, and most lenders would like you to have electricity. And I just want to let you guys know that PG&E pretty much dominates this area. Unless you live in Roseville, that would be a great area if you do not like PG&E because they have their own power system. But that being said, if you want to live out in the boonies, in the middle of nowhere, total privacy, you have to hire PG&E to see if they could put up a pole for you and give you electricity, and that costs a minimum of $10,000. And it's a huge bonus if they can give you electricity. If they could put the pole up because they'll just credit the $10,000 towards your final bill.
I didn't know that. Okay.
And if not, you still pay them $10,000, and you're just, I want to say, shot out of luck. What's the other word for a bad word? You're shit out of luck. You're up the creek. Yeah. You can't have it. Or sometimes they'll say, hey, your neighbor has a pole over here, and we could give you electricity from their pole, but you must ask them for permission. And I will tell you right now, most neighbors will say no, because they want that privacy, and they don't want you moving in next door. Unless you befriend them and buy them a lot of wine, beer, or something, you have to do something to win them over.
Yeah.
I learned that lesson over in El Dorado County.
Okay. All right. So let's move on to that last category. And so these are the folks, they really want some breathing room. And this is typically going to be people that maybe they want to start a business or they have an existing business and they need big acreage. So we're talking over 10 to 15. So I'm going to start with one of the reasons that I'm breaking this out as a separate category is as a lender, as a loan officer, I know the opportunities but the challenges. So the vast majority of the lending industry, they cap out at 10 acres. And the reason for that is the lenders that are providing the funding, the money, they need to have comparable properties so the home can appraise, so that the bank can put up that loan as viable collateral. And so once we go above 10 acres, the thing that I've run into, Lori, is as a broker with over 70 investors where I can place loans, is it's a pretty tiny pool of investors that have an appetite and want to dip their feet in that water. So I was sharing that I financed a property a number of years ago. It was 170 acres in Placer County.
Wow.
That is massive.
Yes.
And it's funny, it wasn't even for a family that had a business. They just were hardcore dirt bike ATV enthusiasts, and they wanted it as a massive family playground. And there was comps, but there was one lender in the entire industry that was willing to lend on the property. They're great properties, but one of the reasons we're bringing this up is whether you're a finance buyer or if you're coming and you just have tons of cash and you can make an all cash buyer is going to work, but anything financing, you need to talk to myself, the lender first. You need to talk to a loan officer that knows what they're doing, that can really guide you and navigate you, get you pre-approved with a lender that will actually lend on that type of property. That's really, I think, the main difference with anything else you'd have to say about those exceptionally large properties?
Yes, I know in Placer County there are some horse properties, with exception that have 20-acre lots, but they are in an established, say, HOA neighborhood where that would probably be excluded just because they already have all the utilities in place,
Right.
And they have everything down versus someone that just wants a random piece of land that happens to be 20 acres. That's the only other situation.
Right. Yeah, and I'm glad you brought that up, because if you are a horse lover, an equine lover, and that's part of the draw or part of what's pulling you our way, it's a great place to come and live, is work with an agent that knows the equestrian, knows the horse world, like Lori, somebody who's passionate. It's a core of her existence. It's what she does every day, because they're going to know the areas where these pockets are, so you don't have to reinvent the wheel. I mean, areas where there are areas with large tracts of equestrian land and like properties where it's going to be so much easier on the financing side to find those comps, because the area was just developed in that manner.
Right. I mean, there's nothing better than being at home and not having to load up your horse in a trailer in the truck and go off on a trail, which there are many out here. But it's so nice to just go on a little 5 mile ride right from home. And there are some neighborhoods where you have trails around you. I will say that they're fairly popular and not many people leave, but when they open up, let's get on it and go for it. And of course, there's people that love to have their own cattle. They want their own sheep, they want their own goats and pigs, and harvest them themselves or have a butcher do it for them because they want to live a bit off the grid, or they're super focused on living. Uh, they want food that is from their own home and not processed in negative ways. And I can help you find those too. I'm really big with helping out 4-H, and our the Gold Country Fairgrounds here in Auburn definitely learned a lot about what they had to offer for people that love to have their own livestock.
Awesome.
As pets, or sadly to say, but to eat as a food.
That's our sustenance.
I hate to say
That's
it,
life.
but it's
That's
so
life.
much better than going to McDonald's and buy a burger from 1,000 cows, right?
Amen.
And having your
Amen
own
to that.
cow.
Well, I would just say, in summary, gang, all of this information we find, we hope it provides you with the tools you need. What I'd say is, don't be intimidated by pursuing that rural dream, but take it step by step. This is not buying your Uncle Larry's home in the subdivision. This is a whole different ball of wax, and you need to work with seasoned professionals like Lori and myself who know what we're doing and can take a thoughtful and cautious approach to putting you in that rural dream home compound that you're thinking about.
Yes, 100%. And I hope you guys enjoy this. Please comment below and let us know what you think. And if you have any more questions, we are happy to meet up
drop
and
us
have
a
a
DM.
beer, glass of wine, or a slice of pizza, whatever we need to do to help you, we'll do it.
Have a great weekend.